Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Michael Franti here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Stay Human podcast, which is presented by the mighty Gibson Guitars. And I'm super excited today because this is a cat who I really admire, and we have a lot in common. We come from completely different parts of the country, completely different backgrounds, but we really have so much in common. And he's somebody who has lived a very unique life. And while playing point guard for the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA in 2004, he was diagnosed with leukemia, and he endured a 2.5-month-long medically induced coma. And since then, he's persevered by reigniting his passion for music and building a solid foundation of just great melodies, super inspiring lyrics, just full of positivity and the determination to get through life and enjoy it while we're doing it. And he's learned so much through his tribulations that I just want to learn more about his wisdom and where he's come from. And he's the leader of the Ray Johnston band. And you guessed it, his name is Ray Johnston. So how you doing, Ray?
I'm great, Michael. How you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome, man. I remember when we met in Birmingham, right?
That's right, at Workplay.
Yeah, Workplay, and you came up to me before the show and introduced yourself and told me your story of just where you're from. And, you know, I think there's this like humanhood. I don't even want to call it a brotherhood because it's the same for women athletes as well. But people who have played similar sports, they just have this like automatic connection. So when somebody tells me that they've played basketball at a very high level, it automatically tells me something about their passion for the game, for their work ethic, through just how much they've been through. You know, I saw this meme today, Ray, that I think you'll love. It was it said that there was a study done about what's more effective, putting your hands on your knees when you are panting for breath, like you're at the free throw line and you're holding onto your shorts, or whether you got to put your hands up over your head, like every coach in the world has always told you to do. Put your hands behind your head, don't bend over, soldier. Like, and they found out that it's better to lean over to breathe. You know,
well, good, because that's what I do.
That's what I do too. That's what everybody does because it's better for you. But you know, when you're an athlete, there's like these little idiosyncrasies like that you just grow up with. That it's hard to for other people outside of sports to really totally understand. And then music is that thing too. It's like, why did some people connect to music in a big way and other people don't? And so I just really want to know about you and where you came from, how you grew up. And, you know, obviously we'll get into your music and basketball later, but where did you grow up as a kid?
I grew up in Montgomery, Alabama. And my dad would remind you of one of the characters in My Cousin Vinny. He talks real Southern, very Magnolia. Son, I can't believe you are joining your friend Michael today. He is in where? Bali, Indonesia. How the hell are y'all going to be able to talk to each other? So I grew up in the deep South.
Tell him we got some tin cans and a really long piece of string.
We got 38 million pairs of shoes donated for a shoestring to go talk with us. Yeah. No, I'm from Montgomery, Alabama, born and raised. My parents divorced at an early age. I had split custody, but my dad remarried. My mom stayed single, and she's always had at least 4 to 8 dogs. And my family was, I grew up in a Christian household, but I grew up in a household where you treat people kind or you're going to be sitting in your room. They've always been good about treating people very, very good. My dad really set that example, but because everybody he brought in for business would stay in the guest room, which had a Jack and Jill bathroom with me. And we would always have sit down dinners. And dad did business with ultimately his friends. And he would always close the deals at the farm. He'd always bring them to the farm and show him his cattle. And that was a little bit of my upbringing.
What was his business?
He was in high risk property casualty insurance. So he insured a lot of mobile homes, a lot of trucking lines. And he was good at math. In fact, when I turned 21, they took me to Vegas to play craps or to teach me to play craps. Because like, Dad, is this your birthday party or mine? That's a lot of thinking. But my mom was an aerobics instructor and I owned an aerobics studio for a while. And Michael, she taught aerobics to the Auburn football team. And her pitch to the coaches were, and you and I can relate to this at our, still young, but not as young age, that stretching after an exercise is uber important, right?
Yeah.
After you exercise, stretching. And by the way, I put my yoga mat in the background to show you that I'm trying to do better.
Nice,
my first yoga mat I purchased.
I see your volleyball there too, man.
I got my backdrop going. I love saying volleyball. I got my hoop, my No Bad Days pillow.
You got the dog, everything.
So my mom would every Sunday she would drive to Auburn and teach that football team aerobics to stretch them out after their games and try to prove that part of medical science to their coaching staff, and they'd have less injuries. So that was my upbringing, and then I graduated and then went to the University of Alabama and was actually a walk-on basketball player there. I didn't have any big offers there, so I thought I could earn scholarship at Alabama. And I don't know how long you want me to make my answer, but that's a little bullet point.
I want to dive in more about just your childhood. So how old were you when your parents got divorced?
Like 4 or 5. I don't really remember it.
Yeah. So it's just always like you had one house and the other house.
Yeah. Every Sunday I'd pack a bag, and I'm good at packing a bag. I had a little 3x5 note card on what to pack. So, going on the road wasn't that bad for me. Just, make sure. And my dad was in the Army for a little bit. So dad was always like, make sure you go conservative on your socks, bring extra socks. Which you can't relate to because you don't wear shoes. But
I don't wear shoes. So as a kid growing up, was your house filled with sports? I mean, your mom obviously being an aerobic instructor, she was really into it, but was sports a part of your dad's life and his house too, or?
It was, but not huge. And I wish more parents were like this. I've now coached youth basketball. Yeah. My dad was never a pressure coach. He'd always just say, go have fun, thumbs up. And we did a lot of front yard football throwing, driveway basketball shooting, hide and seek. I get a little sad these days driving up and down my neighborhood. You don't see hardly any front yard football or like near as much basketball. And kids got way more tablets. So I miss that about this generation a little bit. And maybe I'm just not in the right neighborhood, but he was never a forceful dad about sports. My mom wasn't either. But mom was always behind me saying, if you're going to set a goal and dream, you're going to have to put work into doing it, because there's a whole lot of people out there that want that and that are good. So I was in sports households. We always watched football on Saturdays and Sundays, and some basketball as well. Football is a little bigger in the South than basketball, but I never had parents that forced it on me.
Yeah. Do you remember a time when you were a kid where you ever just completely effed up and you were like, I got to go talk to mom about this, or I got to go talk to dad about, or I hope they don't find out, or something like that. What were those kinds of experiences like for you? Did you
times? That's a plural word.
Yeah. Talk to me about one time that you remember where there's something that you really screwed up.
I think when I was kind of going through my transition stage, teenager, and I lied to my dad a couple of times, and then I knew I was busted, and just seeing that disappointment in his eye, and then knowing that there was probably a spanking on the other side of that punishment, that was tough. But also he'd always tell me, this hurts me worse than you to spank me. And he was not a uber strict dad, but he was in the Army. So his word was his bond. And he said, if you're going to break that rule, there's a consequence to pay. With my mom, she's the old, their farmland was in Leetahachie, Alabama, and that's as country as it sounds. So mom would take a little stick off the rose, a little switch right there, and I'd remember that, and I wouldn't do that again, or I'd get soap in my mouth if I said a potty word. I can't remember, that was just so many times I messed up. But I do remember feeling like that was a consistent punishment, and that I felt like I'm some of the guy I am today because I submit to authority most times. I think I take speed limits seriously. My friends call me a little bit of a square sometimes, but I know that our bylaws and And the Bible has a lot of, as a Christian, the Bible has a lot of scripture about submitting to authority, which is also pretty universal. There's lots of countries that aren't Christian that have rules, right?
Yeah.
And I found the older I get, the more you do that, the less anxiety you carry. Yeah. So that's kind of a tangent answer to that. But I just remember being disappointed when I'd upset my folks. But then I'd always tell my kids this when I coached. I'd say the resolve of the conflict is always a higher high than the actual conflict. And that's very true, I think, with parenting. I've never had a kid myself, maybe one day, but you can speak to that. You've had kids, and I bet you can relate to when my dad said this hurts worse for me than it does for you. I don't know how y'all handle your punishment there, but just to be upset with your kid and vice versa, it's getting past that adversity probably grows the relationship. It's probably the same with our friends and our bandmates when we have a little bickering, and then we're better because of it, right?
You come out the other side of it if you're able to get through it and work through it, and that is the work in life, And I know as an athlete, we've had to learn how important work is and learn the benefits of work. And I still shoot baskets every morning, and I go out and I shoot three pointers every day. That's my first thing I do when I get up in the morning.
I didn't know that. How about that?
And I pretty much do it almost every day. And even at my age, I'm in my 50s now, I still feel this learning. Like I'm still learning. Like I'll go on to Instagram and I'll see I follow a bunch of different coaches and skills coaches and stuff. And I'll look at their footwork. I'll look at their release. I'll look at their follow through. I look at the way that they're holding the ball when they set up and get in their shooting pocket. I look at dribbling things. I look at, coordination things, and I'm still like learning it. Do you remember a time as a kid when you were growing up where that started to click for you? Like, hey man, if I dribble with my left after a while, like it starts to get a little easier. I'm starting to get some. Tell me about that. Did you have any awakenings like that?
Man, I might tear up a little bit when I say this, but I was a huge fan of Kobe's game.
Yeah.
And when I found out how good of a person Kobe was too, that made it ache even more. Before I answer that brings on a point of I wish that the compliments didn't wait for the eulogy. I wish that complimenting people in person, sincerely, eye to eye, hugging it out with a tear on the shoulder was more common. And I've tried to be more intentional about doing that with my friends because Kobe had such a good game. Him and Dirk were really good at using footwork to get a lot of their buckets. Yeah. Kobe had that step in, I might have to get on my chair to show this with my loafers on this morning. I hope I don't fall, but he would do that thing with his right hand where he'd step in like he's about to cross you.
Yeah.
And if you're back on your heels, then he's in his shooting pocket, right? I'm a lefty, so it looks a little odd. Yeah. So that was something I picked up on and used. Stephon Marbury was a guy that I got a lot of moves after because he was really good at the crossover. That was something that came natural to me. And then that in and out move. Yeah. The in and out move goes with the Kobe move because if your guy's still up on the balls of his feet, then you're gone, right?
Yeah.
And then if you're kind of in the hedge game reading them, you can in and out, and then kind of like a Steph Curry. Yeah. That's a read. You're trying to read if he's hands up, hands down, man down, right? Shoot it.
Yeah.
If his hands are up, you probably got a half a step on him. So those two were big in my kind of later high school and early college to watch and try to replicate and try to do those moves in my backyard.
So did it come easy for you, or was it something you had to get out there and struggle with? And like, how did you start to get into, because I see a lot of athletes who are incredibly gifted physical athletes, but they just don't have the ability to really focus and lock in and stick with it until they get it,
And you like how many shows have you done with your bands? Like you're past 10,000, right?
Oh yeah.
So what's that old quote? 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
Time on task, right?
Yeah.
It's usually not rocket science. Like when I made the summer league team with the Mavericks, Dirk was not on that team. Summer league team is first and second year contracted players and all the new draft picks and 2 or 3 hillbillies like me trying to make the full squad. But Dirk put a lot of time in the gym when people weren't looking. And Dirk's not a guy that wants people to know when he's working. So when all that work he did, and as soon as he's outside the lines, He is an uber goofball. He's a people person. Yeah. And when the Mavs finally beat the Heat that year and won it, and Dirk immediately left the court to go in the locker room and just emote, because all that work he had put into it. It's like Jordan. They put work into it. And so I am no Dirk, I am no MJ, but I was able to make my little monumental pedestals in basketball because I was in the gym. I was a gym rat. I love the game. I think my personality kind of evolved with basketball because I come from a Southern conservative Alabama background, and I grew up not with my natural life at my school and stuff. There wasn't a lot of different minorities in there, but in basketball, 80 to 90% of my teammates were African American, and and then by going to open gyms, pickups, playgrounds, man, you learn how to kind of meet people and get to know what their common ground. And then I've always, my Coach Godfrey said this at Alabama, who's a friend of yours, Steve Lavins. He'd say, when he found out I was going to coaching, he said, your kids aren't going to buy it until they know you care about them. And I think it's the same in these pickup games. I went up to New York and played Rucker. I played the Cage down there by NYU, which are hard pickup games to get picked up as a white dude, quite frankly.
4th Street,
Yeah, and so you got to play. And if you can play and you're good to them, then you're pretty thick for life with that commitment on the basketball, because like you said it earlier in this interview, as soon as you knew I played hoops and I played hoops, there's a lot of hours that goes into that, and a lot of hours where you're going, oh, but then that teaches you something in life, man. So there's an automatic connection when I meet girls that play college volleyball. I even tell the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders this. I'm like, you guys work so hard for the littlest amount of pay I've ever seen, and you're incredible. You're the best at your job. And that's, again, trying to be intentional and compliment them in person. Yeah. So early on in my deal, it was the Stephon Marburys, then went to the Kobe's. Then when I moved to Dallas, the Dirk footwork is just so simple. He used to do a little thing called knee, where he'd take the ball and act like he's hitting his opponent's knees, and just doing that, their hands usually drop. And
wow.
I have a tendency to answer very
but now that you mention it, I can see that.
Right. Yeah,
so you went through high school, and did you always dream of trying to be in the NBA? Was it like posters on the ceiling and you slept with the basketball and like the whole thing? Like
it was that Nick Van Exel, Damon Stoudemire. Those are my left. I'm a lefty, so I had to have my lefties in my room to remind me that lefties can't make it. My goal was to play D1 college basketball, and my dream was to make it I just said pros. I just wanted to get paid. So if I ended up in Europe getting paid, I would have been fine with that. And I made the Mavs through this most strange way.
Were you disappointed when you left high school and there weren't offers for you to go, or were you just like, well, tell me about that?
Well, there were offers. They were just schools that were D2 schools or lower D1 schools that didn't really have a basketball presence / crowd. I think this is going to sound a little shallow on my end, but I love playing for a packed house. And maybe that's why I love music now. There's something about that rush. And it's got to come earned, though. You can't just get up on stage and do it. I mean, every now and then we get tossed an opening set with a band that's drawing 10,000 and we go, man, it's hard to mess this up. But those schools that I got offered on didn't really have basketball programs. And so I said, I think I'm good enough to eventually get time at an SEC school. It may be my junior or senior year, but I'm willing to go put in the work and try to earn the scholarship. And luckily, I was in a family situation where I could afford tuition on my own. And in-state tuition at that time at Alabama wasn't a bank breaker. So I had to hold my own and did that. And I made the team. I had to make the team. And I got some action. And this was the only time in my life I ever had not a coach that I was really tight with. And it really bothered me as an 18 and 19-year-old because it makes you insecure. That coach kind of becomes the father figure, right? And when you're not playing and you're getting picked up in pickup games more than the other point guards are, you're kind of, it's in your head. And so I didn't get as much time at Alabama as I thought. So that's why I only played 2 years, because I just wanted to get my degree and enjoy college. But I just kept being a gym rat, kept playing in little semi-pro leagues. So when I moved to Dallas, I was up. My game was probably at its peak. And Dallas, Texas, for you, a lot of your fans don't know probably a ton about basketball in Texas, but Texas doesn't have any state tax, So a lot of the hoopers will come back and have a house in Dallas in the summer. The NBA guys will train there. So you got plenty of open runs to play against the best guys. And man, just like probably playing with Kenny on tour or writing with the best writers, your game ups when you do that, right? Yeah. So when I'm playing against the old Jimmy King with the Fab Five, and guys, I'm even playing with a lot of the old Dallas Cowboys like Deion Sanders, Michael Irvin, and they will rough you up. And when they're in your head saying, they called me White Chocolate. That was my nickname to them. They say, White Chocolate, man, you can always be a mortgage broker, but you ought to try at least go play overseas. And so that gained my confidence a little bit.
So Ray, what was in your head when you're thinking like, okay, I played at Alabama, that's a pretty high level ball, but I'm not the coaching situation here isn't right. And I'm just not, whatever it was giving me before, it's no longer giving me. What made you think like, man, I still love this, or I could still maybe have a shot at doing this at a higher level? Like, what was that time like for you?
I just didn't think there was anything to lose. My natural joy, if I'm working and I want to go take my exercise break, is I want to go play pickup basketball. It's fun to me. And so I play a ton and I'm getting better. And so when I moved to Dallas, my thought was I got my job, so I'm going to keep hooping. Luckily, I'm in a city with a lot of good players and a good run. Let's just go play and see where it goes. And as I did that, then you're playing against the Cowboys guys. Those guys aren't BSers. When they're telling you that, I think they mean it. And then starting to play against these NBA guys that are coming back for the summer. And then that just, it wasn't like I was sacrificing my work to go exercise pretty much. And so I had nothing to lose, just kept playing. And then I didn't know I got seen when I actually got seen. Boy, that sounded like really good English there. But I was just playing in a Hoop It Up tournament. You and I remember those 3-on-3 tournaments, right? Yeah. And the Mavericks they have a guy named Donnie Nelson who's their GM, and
I know Donnie.
Yeah, that's right. You know Donnie well. Yeah. Spent some time out in the Bay Area. So Donnie saw me, and he's good at doing good free marketing for the Mavericks. He's a believer that you sometimes can fill that last spot on the bench with a local guy who can actually play. And so that's how they found me and invited myself and probably 10 other guys playing in Hoop It Up down to the Mavericks practice gym for a little tryout. And I made the cut, and then they started their training camp for summer league, and I kept making the cut. And it was mainly because I was a mortgage broker then. So here was my outlook. All right, I'm going to go down for training camp, and I'm going to get some leads and do some refinances for the staff. Why not?
Why not?
I've been a season ticket holder for 2 years for the Mavericks now. Don Nelson at his most basic coaching principles is, if you're open and you don't shoot it, you're coming to the bench because you're showing me you have no confidence. Okay, so if I'm open, I get to shoot, no pressure. And I think in sports and in music probably too, if you're going into a set or you're going into a game and you're prepared and you're loose, you're probably going to have close to max peak performance, right? Yeah. And that was really my outlook. I knew their sets, and I was calling them, and the coaches were going, how do they know our sets? And luckily, my stepdad for a little while was a college coach, so we had a lot of dinner table talk. It was a beautiful experience, man. I tell you what, getting to call my mom and dad and tell them that I made it, oh, that was awesome. That's about as good as it gets.
So how did they inform you? How did they tell you?
Well, after about 3 weeks of them trying to bring in other point guards to get Ray Johnston out of there, they finally were like, well, man, we just traded Steve Nash. We just drafted Devin Harris. We got Darrell Armstrong as the backup. I guess we got to have a third guy that's a decent locker room guy that if we have to put in 5 minutes a game, you can't mess it up too bad. And Donnie Nelson actually told me, he came up to me before the announcements. He goes, man, I'm not going to wait to let you hear it. You earned it, and congratulations. And I was like, thanks. I wasn't even surprised, though. I felt like I earned it. Hope that doesn't come across cocky, but I thought I was the best selection for that third PG, and then off we went.
Yeah. So then you're playing, and you must have been just like, wow, I just kind of got plucked out of nowhere, and I put the time in, and here I am. I actually paid off. I'm not doing mortgage brokering, at least for a little while. And here I am on the bench, and every now and then I'm getting a few minutes, and then boom.
No, I still did some refinances during my tenure. I did both.
Okay. to the other teams, you hit
No, the
game?
strength and conditioning coach and my trainer.
Okay.
But I'll say it was a whole lot less work there, and it was pretty cool to give my 2 weeks to my mortgage bank. They were all behind me, of course.
Yeah.
We went from Dallas on a plane out to Long Beach, and played in the Long Beach. At that time, Long Beach had the summer league, and then we went to Salt Lake City. But unfortunately for me, Devin Harris had just been drafted, so I had to guard him in practice every day. He was the quickest point guard I'd ever guarded, so I was losing a little confidence that I might not be able to guard the quicker cats. Yeah. Like today, guarding Steph, boy, that would be quite funny.
Yeah. So then, when did you get the diagnosis?
I was with the team for about 2 months, and then they flew us back to Dallas, and there's about a month and a half gap before you go back for fall vet camp, which is when they pick the team for your normal season that everybody sees on TV. And I was just playing pickup in the Mavs practice gym, and I just had a little random leg surgery, so I went and saw the Mavs doctor the next day. And long story short, they diagnosed me with a compartment syndrome, which just means you have some bleeding underneath your muscle sheath. And so just to do an outpatient surgery, it's very common in hockey, actually. It takes about a week, and then you're back to normal. But that surgery led to my body kept bleeding, and they're like, something's up. So they took me to the ER. And after many, many tests, they found that I only had about 2,000 blood platelets. You're supposed to have 140 to 400,000 blood platelets. So basically, I had internal bleeding starting to amass. And by the time they figured out it was leukemia, my body was starting to shut down. And so that's what led to the drug-induced coma. And then it was just, it was a different type of fight. It was just fighting to stay alive. And it was tough because I don't remember any of this. And my family was there for me, seeing me go through all this. And all my teammates and Mark Cuban and Donnie Nelson were visiting me just asleep for 2 months. And that'll grow you tighter, too, to your teammates. You get an ultimate team bond when you're with your guys in practice, arguing and developing friendships and getting wins and losses together. But anytime someone goes through a health deal, whether it's me or somebody else, or if it's, sometimes seeing these guys that have injury-ending ACLs and they're kind of towards the end of their career, that's a crusher for me because I go, man, I know the rehab behind that. So when I came out of the coma and had seen all the pictures of guys that supported it, I'm like, man, now that's life right there. And much like your beliefs and a lot of my basketball teammates were all kind of different beliefs, but it didn't matter at all. We all had love for each other. Yeah. And so it was really tough, but I think because of the way my mom and my dad raised me, I didn't sulk too much. I said, okay, I lost 70 pounds. I had to have 7 toes amputated. It's a long way back. I'm probably not going to hoop in my future. Don't want to feel like give up guy. But I remember Donnie Nelson saying this once. He goes, you can play it. You can coach it. You can be on the administration team. And if you like basketball that much, Mark Cuban loves free interns. So tried to keep it light around me, So I kind of had that new goal in front of me, and that was just to live. I didn't worry about 1, 3, 5 year goals. It was just to live. And then my family did something very admirable and consistent with me in the hospital. They would say, look, there's neighbors of yours that don't have family or friends that are going through as hard or harder struggles. When you see your doctors and techs and nurses, you thank them because they're seeing these on a daily basis. And because you're going to be positive with them, it's going to organically fool you. And you're going to forget less about your journey. It's going to be about others. And I think in life, one of the most honored things to hear is, hey, we're praying for you. Whatever religion you believe in, if someone's taking the time to pray for your well-being, man, that's no bad days right there, right? And so many people would say that, and I'm like, I don't know how to respond, but whenever you have adversity, I'm here for you. That's just a big, awesome thing to do, right? So I just remember my parents quickly saying, you're going to beat this, and we want you to be as positive as you can during these treatments because somehow that's going to inspire and hopefully encourage your staff that's trying to heal you and these other patients.
So Ray, at what point did you start thinking, man, this is something that I want to do, this music thing? And was it that you wanted to be in front of crowds? Is it that you just love music so much, or was it that you wanted to be part of a team? What was going on for you?
All three of those. The first thing that drew me to music was the team aspect. I wasn't near good enough to do it by myself. I was a drummer in high school, and then in college I got the guitar, and I wasn't confident in my voice, but I could sing decent harmonies. And so I did a little bit of business first, in that I got a good girl singer that was in a sorority. I was in a fraternity, and I got a guy who was a good lead picker that was in a fraternity as well. So I knew we had leverage to go to bars and say, hey, we're new, but we're going to bring our friends from our Greek organization. So that means you're going to probably have a decent bar tab. And so they were like, yeah, we're fine with that. We'll give you $50 a piece. And we played every Thursday at a bar in Tuscaloosa, Alabama to start. And we were playing stuff from Landslide, Fleetwood Mac to Dixie Chicks to Eagles, because those Don Henley notes I wasn't singing. And kind of mix it in with that kind of vibe, the Judds every now and then. And then as we played more, I'd pick up a song or two to sing lead myself. And so that band was called Three Step. Horrible name. And I came across our press kit, actually.
That's traveling, man. 3 steps.
I came across our press kit when I was moving last time. I'm going, oh boy, they hired us in spite of this. God bless them. But it was cool because we were able to, people liked us, and Molly could really sing for a girl, and my lead picker was good. We'd do some Allman Brothers songs. We both would learn those melody riffs that would just lead to 5 to 15-minute jams. And man, holding rhythm when people are jamming reminds me of a point guard throwing alley-oops and passing. I just love it. That'll never get old for me. In fact, I got the music bug when I saw Dave Matthews Band when I was in 10th grade for a $5 cover charge, play a 250 cap bar in Auburn, Alabama, and the electricity went out the third song into it, and they went back on. They played till 3 a.m, and I remember going, these guys look like they're having equal or more fun than the crowd, and the crowd was at peak happiness. And then there was a lot of stuff where I could tell I knew enough music then by going, okay, that's the same intro and outro of the song. They're hitting the choruses the same, but there's times where they're trying stuff that sometimes doesn't work. And I just love Carter Beauford. That drummer, to me, is one of the most favorite drummers to watch. He's got such a unique ambidextrous form, but he also shows it here. He's got so much jubilation
on his face, tones. The joy. Yeah.
And when him and Dave connect, it's that Tiger Woods fist pump that makes me go, that's a basketball thing too. I get it. We just executed a play. So I got the bug then, man. Anytime I play with my bandmates and they start getting their shine on, I'm going, oh, this is going to be special. So college kind of taught me a little bit about how to get gigs and then make a song list and then cater to your strengths, which singing 80% on point harmonies was about as good as I could get there, but I could play rhythm guitar. And then when I moved to Dallas, it was just as I was working corporate for 2 years before my Mavs deal, I'd play once every 2 months with the same kind of logic. I went to Campese's Pizza and said, I see y'all don't have music. I'm not really in it for the money. It just makes me happy. And at that time, I started picking up some Texas country songs like Pat Green. I learned a couple Kenny Chesney songs, a couple George Strait, Garth Brooks songs. So I would fuse those in with my already known. I knew a ton of Dave Matthews, Jack Johnston, John Mayer, and all that to me has a lot of happy ingredient. And at my core, I like to write happy songs, no bad days kind of music. And so that was just to have fun and just give me some endorphins to the music to play. I never thought it would be a career. And then my basketball thing happened, and I took my guitar on the road with the Mavericks. Of course, some of my teammates were going, all right, man. And that was, sometimes, and some people read before they go to bed. Some people write Sports Center. 3 days a week, I'd get my guitar and play 10 to 20 minutes to keep my chops and mainly to keep your calluses, as you know how important that is.
Calluses up, man. Yeah.
It sucks when you lose those things.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of a fun thing that I never thought before the age of 28 that I would try to do it as a full-time gig. It just kind of morphed into that once my cancer diagnosis was given to me, and then I couldn't play basketball anymore. And it's like, man, and then I've had 4 relapses since the initial one. So sometimes you make decisions based on just, if the doctor tells you don't have maybe a whole lot of time left, just kind of go instinctual, right? And you go, hey, I want to go here with my family, or I want to do this with no questions. And I called my family and I said, hey, I've been playing some cover gigs in Dallas. I'm going to outcompete my competition by paying these super funky jazz cats more money just so they can be with me for 6 months in case this is it. And they like my music enough. And at that time, Mark Cuban agreed to do a TV show kind of behind the scenes of a new band trying to make it in a tough ass industry.
Yeah.
Combined with following a cancer patient trying to beat his diagnosis while all starting a band. And there was no tilts. There was no Housewives of Orange County setup scenes. This was all authentic. Playing to 8 people, playing to opening for Cheap Trick at South by Southwest and going, whoa, this is fun. And everything in between. And I relapsed during the filming. So it was completely authentic TV. And at that time, Michael, I had a saxophone player by the name of Keith Anderson, an organ player named Bobby Sparks. I don't know, Manaus is still your drummer, but he knows those guys. And these are guys that used to play with Tower of Power, Erykah Badu. Keith was Prince's sax player for 4 years until Prince passed. And so I surrounded myself with studs. I had like Michael Jordan here, LeBron here, Steph here, all equivalent from music playing. So our band should have been called Ray Johnston and these badass mofos just playing some funky music, because my songwriting was very just, I just was wanting to write a song, get done with it, so we'd have a song and we could play. And that caught up to me. We were able to sustain a living doing that for 2 years, but then we weren't selling tickets, and it was because the songs weren't me from my core, and they weren't written well. So if I'm not being too long of an answer here, I had a benefit deal down in South Texas at a ranch, and a lot of these Texas country guys were down there, and one of them talked with me, and I've been friends with him for about a year. He goes, Ray, I'd love to tell you what I think. And I go, man, hit me. I was a walk-on for a basketball team. I'm used to I got thick skin. What is it? He goes, you got a better voice than you think, but you're not singing you. You're singing like a wannabe Dave Matthews. And you just told me your dad has cattle. You like to go hunting with your dog. So why aren't you writing country music? And I said, man, quite frankly, because country music, a lot of the good songs that I like are based on songwriting, and I don't enjoy songwriting. He goes, well, this ain't going to be your business then. He goes, if you want to do this, you're going to have to go back, sit on your couch, write what's you. And if no one likes it, that's okay. At least it's authentic to you. And that's what I did. And so I came back. I kind of had to rebrand my sound. In fact, I met you before I started writing country. And, it wasn't long before both of my country writing and then my old styles fused. And that's an easy fuse, right? Yeah. And so now I still am not the best songwriter. I give myself a B+, but I have days where there some good songs come out, and have some days where a lot of stinkers come out.
One of the things I really love about your music is it isn't just straight down the middle of the road country. Definitely has its country acknowledgments, but it really is a mix of a lot of different things, and it is that kind of good vibes music. Like when I hear Kenny Chesney's music, it's the same thing. It's one of the reasons I like it. It's unique. It's original. You don't know if he's a jam band, if he's a reggae band, if he's a balladeer, or if he's somebody who just loves fun music, but it all comes off as authentic because he's telling stories from real life that people can resonate with. And I think that's the most important thing in any kind of artistic venture at all, or in any business really at all, is in order for you to make others believe in it, you have to believe it first, and you've got to feel it. And that's why I've followed your music and just how you've grown. And one of the things that I really love, and you've kind of touched on it a few times, and I want to wrap up here, but your no bad days philosophy. When I think of you as an athlete who's struggled, you're trying to make teams, you're getting cut, you're and then finally when you get there, you have this unexpected opportunity to play in the NBA, and then boom, the rug kind of gets pulled out from under your feet. You go through this learning metamorphosis of just trying to stay alive and heal your body. Then you find music, and it's the same thing. You get out there again, and it's kind of like, man, I got to like relearn this all. Seemed like there could be a lot of bad days there. Seems
Yes.
like there could be a lot of hard moments. So tell me about the no bad days philosophy.
Well, and that's the honest answer. And everybody that says no bad days, when it's crazy how this song has reached folks and go, I needed to hear this today. My mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. So of course they're having bad days, but I think the attitude trumps all when you're going through adversity. If you can put in your mind that you're going to try to see some type of sunlight through this darkness, that's going to be helpful to the person you're with, or if it's you going through it. It's just a mental deal that I can't explain, but I tried so hard to be positive through all this. And I had many days where I was crabby and I didn't want to do anything but watch Andy Griffith shows with my mom and not do anything, you know. But this song was the way I'm explaining this song. I've actually never answered this question like this, but this is how it happened. I got to go on a songwriting retreat in 2013 to Cabo San Lucas from a nice businessman in Dallas that goes, I know you're trying to make it in music. I believe in you, but you're probably trying to write songs with folks that aren't going to write with you unless you bring something significant to the table. And I go, well, that's one way to put it. He goes, you're welcome to use my beach house in Cabo. And he's a very philanthropic guy who just loves music. He goes, all I ask is that you use this backdrop to write music that hopefully is on the positive side. And their theme down at their house was No Bad Days. And their theme came from a mutual friend of his that they had, I think, 3 kids born that all passed after a week. And this father and mom somehow flipped this into a No Bad Days keynote speech that he shares. And it's like, you haven't had a bad day until you're not first, not second, the third child has passed 3 weeks after being born. So all you with attitudes out there, you're going to change that around right now. And so we wanted to give this house owner a gift for letting us stay down there a week. And we came to the conclusion to get all 6 writers on the table down there by the Sea of Cortez and go, we're going to write him a song called No Bad Days, because we're serving someone who has served us by letting him come to this beautiful place. So the song was written for my friend Scott and his friend Scott. Mm-hmm. And because it was meant for somebody, I think there's a greater power that goes, every religion out there talks about serving others. That is a beautiful thing about generosity. You can't tell me one religion that's a good one that's not talking about being kind to others, right? So when we got to turn in that song and see his reaction, man, that is an immediate reset in life. No matter, I think my highest day, I'm supposed to be my highest day is when I make the Mavericks, right? But right. That feeling is trumped when you see a reaction from someone else that says, wow, you took time to think about that and you wrote that for me, and that's a song that will last generations and generations. That is what life's about right there. And then it's not funny. I didn't even think that was my story until I kept playing the song 2 weeks over and over. And my favorite scripture is a cheerful heart is good medicine to the soul. A downcast spirit dries up the bones. And I'm playing that. And one of my friends in radio goes, dude, that's your song. And I go, why didn't I think of that at first? I'm like, It sure is. That's my song. That's going to be my next album. I'm going to make it happy music. That's what I'm supposed to do. And then that song ended up getting cut by Alabama on their 2016 album. And right now we're trying to cut kind of a beachy version to pitch to movies that are more coastal and maybe like a pitch to Carnival Cruise Lines or something, because the song is a non-genre song. It's an all smile song. So that's a little story about the brand and the music. And it's mainly an attitude I try to keep with myself, and also hypocrite warning. I have many days where I'm being a jackass and I'm like, come on, man, you're wearing your No Bad Days here. Go out and try to lift someone else. And so I hope I didn't beat around the bush too much there. But yeah,
it keeps you on your path. It's your mantra, you know. It's my mantra is stay human. And the last thing I always ask everybody on the show is, what does it mean to you to be to be human, Ray? And then how do you stay that way?
I think learning being a walk-on really taught me that treating people equal is huge. Because as a walk-on, man, you're low on the totem pole. And anytime I'm out in public, this is a lot of my dad and me. I try to learn a name, say it back to them, and generally find out a little about their story. And so that to me is just, if you meet a janitor, you meet a CEO, you meet an all-star, or you meet a 15-year-old that just got cut from a basketball team, I try my hardest to try to treat them equally, give them eye contact, and remember their name. I know Sam Walton once said the best thing someone can hear is their own name. So that to me is something I try to do on a daily.
Yeah. Awesome, man. It's so inspiring to hear your story. And how can folks keep up with you and know where you're going to play and hear your music, hear your records?
You didn't tell them the good news. We're opening for you at Red Rock sometime in June.
Yeah.
Congrats on that, man. That's awesome.
Thank you, man.
We're everything is branded the same. It's all Ray Johnston Band with a T in the last name. So I'm probably the most active on Instagram, and so at Ray Johnston Band if you want to follow us down the road of the old social media, and then Spotify, Apple Music, Ray Johnston Band. And man, I can't end this interview without giving you some love. I watch people stage presence to try to pick up some tricks that are authentic to me and not just do them to engage the crowd. And man, have you ever done a show with Neil McCoy? You and him got some similar isms, man. Y'all are just so arms open to the crowd. That arms thing brings everybody in. And man, how do you get rest? You go do your shows, you do the yoga with your fans, you're playing acoustic. Man, those people that make it at your level, it's just like I was talking about with Dirk earlier. There's no accident. You put so much hours into it. And how do you catch your breath when you're singing that much? I have to sing a chorus, and then I tell the solo guys, go 8 more bars. I got to catch my breath over here. But
you know what I do? I run and I sing. I put my headphones on and I sing along to it.
Oh, that's what you're doing.
Runs. Yeah. When I go in the morning, my morning runs, I just sing along. Okay. And, you know how it is, man. It's like your physical energy is one thing, but your passion and your spirit for doing it will exceed even the limitations that you think you have for your body, and that's not to say I never get run down, but I do know when to take my pockets, and when I'm not doing those things, when I'm on tour and I'm not speaking to people, or when I'm not practicing yoga, or when I'm not visiting a school, or when I'm not working out, or when I'm not at sound check or whatever, I am in bed. It's like I just go lay down, and for 20 minutes I catch a 20-minute nap, or if we're going somewhere in a car to a radio station, I'll sleep on the way there. So I do catch myself just trying to find those rest periods and being away. When we do have days off, which is usually like 1 out of every 7 days, we'll have a day off. Same thing, man. I'm in the gym, and then I'm in bed, just resting, let my body recuperate. It's funny, as a musician, you think, you're traveling all the time. You're in and out of vehicles, planes, trains, automobiles. You're up late at night. You're up early in the morning to go to radio stations and stuff like that. But the 2 most delicate parts of your body are your vocal cords and your eardrums, that make you hear. Yeah. And that's what we use for a living. So you got this whole, I'm 220 pounds, 6'6", but these tiny little things that are the most sensitive, delicate parts of your body are what you got to do. So you have to take care of the whole rest of it in order for those things to be able to rest too. So
do you use ears, or do you use ears?
I use in-ear monitors.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I use the in-ear monitors. Yeah. All right, you guys, thanks for having us on this version of the Stay Human podcast presented by the great Gibson Guitars. We've been talking with Ray Johnston, man. He's an incredible cat. I hope you listen to his music. I hope you get out to see him out on the road. I know that you'll find his shows as inspiring as any other artist out there today who's really trying to make all of us understand that what we need to get through life, both as individuals and as a collective, is already inside of us, and we just need to bring it out through our positivity, through our optimism, and through our tears, and through knowing that when we fall down, we can get up. And Ray is such a great example of that. So thanks for joining us here today, Ray, on the Stay Human podcast.
What a huge honor, Michael. Much love, man. Hopefully see you in person soon, and we get to do one of these.
Big hug.
Yeah, right. Man, already. See you, buddy.
Take care, brother.